Welcome to the Tell Me Something Good podcast. Ranked by the International Association of Awesome Podcasts as the best podcast in the history of podcasts. Wait, is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing. Anyway, seeking to shine a light on all that is good in an ever-darkening world of negativity. Here's your host, Clint Swindall.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Clint Swindall, and you have made your way to the Tell Me Something Good podcast, the show that is all about creating a more positive world by overcoming negativity. It is my goal to engage, encourage, and enlighten each of you who are kind enough to tune in each week. I am happy you're here. This is episode number 5 of the Tell Me Something Good podcast, entitled The Benefits of Complainers and Pessimists. Brought to you by Let's Talk Smack, an app that provides daily nudges to take your social media game to a whole new level. If you're wanting to have a more engaging presence on social media, either personally or professionally, you need a plan, and the Let's Talk Smack app can help you develop your plan. Check it out wherever you get your apps. Here we are, friends, episode number 5, and they haven't kicked us off the air yet. If you are just now joining us, I would encourage you to jump back at some point and listen to the previous 4 episodes. You'll see we've done several things, from laying out the format of the show, to delivering some content, to introducing different segments, and to conducting an interview with an incredible man out doing good things in the community. Back on episode number 2, I shared what I consider to be true negativity. I have found that some people confuse bad stuff with negativity. Bad stuff is what happens to us. Negativity is the constant complaining and excessive pessimism about the bad stuff. If you get a flat tire, that is not negativity. It's just bad stuff that needs to be handled. It doesn't become negativity until you tell everyone you know how unlucky you are because you got a flat tire. And you tell the story again and again and again. I put it in a very simple formula. BS plus CC plus EP equals N. Again, BS plus CC plus EP equals N. Those of you who were with us for episode number 2 may recall the formula stands for bad stuff, BS, plus constant complaining, CC, plus excessive pessimism, EP, equals negativity, N. Look, we're all going to have bad stuff happen to us. Some people process the bad stuff and lean into the positive things life has to offer. Other people seem to thrive from their ability to live in the negativity. And it comes down to one word: perspective. Allow me to introduce you to 2 fictional characters with authentic scenarios. First, meet Brad. Brad experiences the loss of his job. He liked his job, so he's bummed. Brad's mind races through what it means as he wraps his head around it. He's got bills to pay, potential embarrassment when he tells his friends, and the stress of finding a new job. Brad puts it in perspective as he considers it's just a job. He puts together a plan to find another job and reaches out to some friends for help. As he's interviewing for a new job, Brad's making notes of what lessons he learned from this bad situation. At some point, he finds a new job. Brad moves on. Now meet Andy. Andy experiences the loss of his job. He didn't like his job, yet he's still devastated. Like Brad, his mind races through the same things as potential unpaid bills, embarrassment, and stress from a job search. And for some reason, Andy finds more satisfaction in complaining about his situation. He complains that these things always happen to him. Andy says that if it weren't for bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. Andy shares his misfortune with anyone who will listen to his pessimistic outlook. He whines that no one will want to hire someone his age. He'll probably lose his house, or the younger generation won't appreciate the value he brings to the table. Unlike Brad, Andy can't move on, and his negativity affects him and everyone around him. Do you know anybody like Andy? As I mentioned, bad stuff is going to happen. In fact, some complaining is going to happen if you're normal. It's the constant complaining about the bad stuff that makes people want to avoid you. And it's the excessive pessimism about things that have not even happened that cause people to run when they see you coming. Let's start by taking a closer look at the CC in the formula, constant complaining. We like to complain. I don't know if it's true or not, but some research shows that most people complain once a minute during a typical conversation. It feels good. While it may not be good for you, it feels good. Now, to be clear, complaining is normal. It's not a bad thing. Complaining can be very beneficial when there is a belief the complaint will affect positive change. A complaint about poor service could result in better service next time. A complaint about lost luggage could result in an improved process for handling luggage. Constructive complaining is good. Constant complaining is not. My curiosity for constant complaining led me to do some research. What I found is that people who constantly complain have wired their brain to make complaining a habit. You see, the brain wants to make things as simple as possible. For the most part, the human brain is lazy. It likes habits, good or bad, so it can create a circuit that will allow it to operate on autopilot. When the brain sees a repeated behavior like chewing fingernails or eating a snack, neurons start communicating with each other. This communication between neurons allows them to form an alliance by connecting through synapses. This alliance wires a circuit to make it easier to repeat that behavior in the future. Essentially, the brain doesn't want to create a new path every time you think about something, so it looks for similar thoughts to trigger the same neurons. Basically, the brain creates habits because it's lazy. This activity in the neural network is what Canadian psychologist Donald Hebb referred to as neurons which fire together, wire together. Essentially, these neurons merge and the connections become more long-lasting, making it easier for your brain to know what to do with them. Repeated complaining rewires the brain to make future complaining more likely. At some point, we find it easier to be negative than to be positive. It's like complaining becomes our normal behavior. To make it worse, constant complaining is making people sick, literally. According to a study conducted at Stanford University, complaining shrinks the hippocampus, an area of the brain that is critical to problem-solving and intelligent thought. Simply put, complaining makes you stupid. And if that's not enough to encourage you to stop complaining, consider this. When you complain about something, your adrenaline gets going, and your body receives the message that it is time to get fired up to fight something. This message tells the body to release the stress hormone cortisol. The body can experience several negative effects of cortisol, including high blood pressure, anxiety, and sleeplessness. And the more you complain, the more cortisol you have racing through your body. Research shows that high levels of cortisol can impair the immune system and increase the likelihood of high cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity, an awful high price to pay for constant complaining. Now, let's take a look at the evil twin of constant complaining, excessive pessimism, the last part of the negativity formula. Like complaining, not all pessimism is bad. There is a place for both optimism and pessimism in our life. We need a good balance between the two for our survival. We all need some optimism in our life. We need to be hopeful and confident about the future. It allows us to see the good in things, which helps us fend off the negativity. Research shows optimistic people are healthier and live longer than their pessimistic counterparts. Their positive outlook allows them to see hardships as learning experiences. Perhaps more importantly, they are just more enjoyable to be around. At the same time, we can learn a lot from those who are pessimistic. The pessimistic Pats in our lives tend to see the worst and believe the worst in many aspects of life. Many lack the very hope and confidence we see in optimists. And perhaps more importantly, it is not nearly as enjoyable to be around pessimistic people. The reality is we need pessimists to imagine the worst-case scenario in any situation, so we're prepared for it. I heard one time that people who worry a lot have a higher job performance than those who worry from time to time. Pessimists help us by preparing for the bad stuff. In the end, we need optimists and pessimists. What we don't need are the extreme versions of either in our lives. Eternal optimism is irresponsible and reckless, and excessive pessimism is defeatist. We need to be around people in the middle. We need to be around people who are capable of seeing the glass half full and half empty. So, be a complainer when the intent is to improve, and be a pessimist when the intent is to avoid disaster. Just don't be the one known for constant complaining and excessive pessimism. If you are contributing to a culture of negativity. All right, let's find some good stuff. For 2 decades now, I've been challenging people to tell me something good. You would be amazed how many people can't come up with one good thing happening in their life. When I ask people why they can't come up with something, the most common response I get is, "Nothing significant has happened to me." Tell me something good is not reserved for the big stuff in life. Tell me something good is about everything, including the small, everyday good stuff. Sometimes we just need to look for the small stuff. So I'll show you what I mean in a segment I like to call
In Search of the Good Stuff.
I got my haircut. I'm a guy who goes about every 3 to 4 weeks to get a haircut. Like most everyone else, that routine got changed with the coronavirus pandemic. The stay-at-home restrictions in Texas meant I went well over 2 months. It was bad. My good thing is that I got in on the Monday after the restriction was lifted on barbers on the previous Friday. That's a big deal because when I got to the barber, she informed me she was booked solid for the next month. Now, while some people would say, that's not a something good, I would tell you that you needed to see me before you made that statement. It was not a pretty sight. I was 1 day away from cutting it myself. So see, it doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be something good in your life. And for me, getting a haircut was something good. Regardless of how meaningless someone else's good stuff is, it's always nice to hear something good. As I've said before, we can't depend on the media to provide us a steady diet of anything good. Here on the Tell Me Something Good podcast, we focus on the good and will always take the time to hear some good news in these unprecedented times. So it's time for
Good news from around the world.
And here's what I found. With gyms closed across the country, many people have seen their exercise routines disappear. A generous gym owner in Illinois anticipated that, and he did his part to make sure that customers stay active and meet their fitness goals. Drew Whitted, owner of the Be Strong Gym in Bloomington, Illinois, allowed his members to sign out more than $40,000 worth of workout equipment to use at home, free of charge, during the state's stay-at-home order. He said he didn't want people to miss their workouts, and he's gratified to see how it's bringing families together. Now, I see a whole family getting through this shelter in place, getting through this tough time, doing these workouts together, bonding together, becoming healthier and happier together as a family unit, he told CNN. About 80 members took him up on the offer, signing out equipment, but Drew held some back so he could hold online training sessions every day. The small business owner has promised to retain and pay all 8 of his employees and has offered members a free month when the quarantine is over. One of the gym members said she was blown away by the generosity. He had recently put a lot of money into getting new equipment. His equipment is really beautiful, so it was a big sacrifice. She added that she would personally be paying him for the lost month anyway. The rest of the gym member's family has recently started working out at home with her, and they are planning to join the gym when it reopens. Whitted has expressed no worries about the equipment making its way back to the gym when it reopens, saying that members will be excited to work out together again. And then there's this. A dog that alerted her family during a tornado in Tennessee on March the 3rd, saving their lives, has been found nearly 2 months later. Bella, a 6-year-old miniature Australian Shepherd, woke up her owner, Eric Johnson, after behaving erratically, giving Johnson a sense that something didn't feel right. Johnson turned on his TV and saw that a tornado was headed toward Cookeville, where the family lived. Johnson got his wife and children and hid them in a bathtub. When the tornado hit their house, destroying it, Johnson was trying to find the dog. He was thrown into the backyard, as was the dog, which then went missing. With the help of a dog tracker, Bella was found nearly 2 months later hiding in an alley 4 miles from home. The whole situation was incredible, the dog tracker said. I'm so very grateful that I was in a position to be able to help him out. And that, my friends, is some good news from around the world. I said from the very first episode of this podcast that my goal each week is to educate you, entertain you, inspire you, or celebrate with you. I hope in some small way I've been able to do that. My research of the podcast world prior to starting this podcast made me realize you have a lot of choices as to where you will spend your valuable time. And I want to make sure you feel you've invested wisely in spending time listening to the Tell Me Something Good podcast. If you ever have questions or something you'd like for me to address here on the podcast, let me know. Jump over to findthegoodinlife.com. Right there on the front page, you'll find a button to ask a question. I'll take some of what I receive and include it in this segment called
Ask Clint Anything. 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 Anything.
This week I had someone ask a pretty simple question. At least I thought it was simple. And here it is. Hey Clint, what's something you were doing before the quarantine that you haven't been able to do because of the shutdown? What an awesome question. I think we all have things we miss doing. When I first read the question again, I thought it was easy because I immediately started thinking of the obvious things like eating out, seeing my friends and family, enjoying a regular routine. While I miss those things, I'm actually surprised by something else I realized I miss. Strangely enough, I miss the things about traveling I thought I didn't like. Road warriors who travel regularly know the myriad of things we complain about. Driving around the airport looking for a place to park, shaking our head at the people slowing down the TSA pre-check lane because they're taking off their shoes because they didn't know any better, getting bumped by the drink cart by an overzealous flight attendant, eating overpriced, mediocre food at the airport, sitting at an airport bar drinking a beer watching a sporting event involving two teams we don't normally follow while waiting for a delayed flight. The list goes on and on. These were all things I thought I didn't like about flying. Oddly, they are some of the things right now I miss the most. We are getting close to the end. Before I end this episode with a challenge, I want to remind you that this episode of Tell Me Something Good has been brought to you by Let's Talk Smack, an app that provides daily nudges to take your social media game to a whole new level. If you're wanting to have a more engaging presence on social media, either personally or professionally, you need the Let's Talk Smack app to help you form a plan. Check it out wherever you get your app. Now, the challenge. Most people I talk with are anxious to return to normal. They're ready to get back to the routine they had before the pandemic. I certainly get that. Before you come back for the next episode, I want you to think about what part of your life to which you don't want to return. Maybe it's a habit that was never good for you. Maybe it was a friendship that was never healthy. This could very well be the opportunity for you to make the choice to not return to something that was not good for you. Maybe this will be the opportunity for you to create a new normal in its place. Well, that's all for today's episode of the Tell Me Something Good podcast. Join us again for our next episode where I will share the first of 6 lessons in the all-new Tell Me Something Good book. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. If you've enjoyed the podcast, I'd sure appreciate a rating and review. Our best chance of growing and spreading positivity to the world is showing the podcast community that we're making a difference. We can do that if you'll subscribe, download, rate, and review. And to encourage you to leave a review, we're giving something away. If you leave a review, you'll be entered into a drawing for a Tell Me Something Good gift package. The package includes all kinds of awesome stuff, including an array of Tell Me Something Good logoed items, including a t-shirt and custom challenge coin. We'll also include a signed copy of my first book, Engaged Leadership. And hey, that's a big deal. That signature just might get you an extra $1 on eBay when you sell it. All you need to do is leave a review and you are entered. Also, visit findthegoodinlife.com. While you're there, you can share your good stuff or ask questions for the podcast. In addition to finding all the links to join us on social media, you'll find 3 big buttons that will direct you to everything you need to know about Tell Me Something Good. Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'll be praying for God to bless you in mighty ways. Now, get out there and love on somebody.
You've been listening to the Tell Me Something Good podcast. The content of the podcast is meant to engage, encourage, and enlighten you to become more positive. It's not meant to diagnose, treat, or replace the personalized care provided by a trained professional. If you're struggling with depression or mental health issues, please reach out to a counselor for diagnosis and treatment. Until next time, be positive, people.